Hey, this is William for attackofthefanboy.com, and this is ReCore. Kyle, you're playing this game for review right now.
Yep.
I know nothing about this other than looking over your shoulder, or maybe somebody else's shoulder, at E3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played it, but you weren't around for that, so you must have been looking at somebody else.
Yeah, I think so. And then it didn't even appeal to me to like sit down and play it, even though had ample opportunity to do so. I don't know, something about what was going on the screen did not draw me in.
It was definitely different than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
When I first saw that demo. But I mean, I've been anticipating this because it's from the makers of Metroid Prime, which is probably in my top 3 games of all time. Like, that's just way up there, and anyone who argues is wrong. It's an amazing game. It's one of the best games ever made. So anyone who worked on that has an immediate pass from me, and I am interested in the games that they're making, which is this game. Also with the talents of, and I'm going to mispronounce, Keiji Inafune, who worked on Mega Man. So it's kind of a big mishmash of, gamers games, these old school. This is kind of a game that you would have expected to see on Kickstarter, but it's not, because Microsoft funded it and Microsoft is publishing it. It's a big game in their portfolio this year, and it is important to point out, starting out, this is a $40 game. This is not a full-blown $60 game, and so that has tempered some of my issues, which, if you look at the video right now, you'll see one of them, which is that loading times are atrocious.
Yeah, this thing's been loading just about the whole time you've been talking.
Normally I would cut these out for these videos, but this is important. I have timed these. These go well over a minute sometimes. And for simple things. This isn't like, yes, they will take a long time when you're loading the game initially, when you're fast traveling, going from one side of the world to the other side, which is a big area, and there's a lot of open space. So that would sort of make sense. But it will also do this if you're in a room fighting a boss and you die. And then it has to reload that room.
Wow. So
I timed those, and those hit 45 seconds at least.
That sucks.
It was nasty. I don't mind dying in a game, but I was so afraid of dying in this game because I knew it was going to be a minute. I had my phone next to me the whole time I played this, because if you enter a building, enter a dungeon, which I'll get into, anything like that, it is just a slog. It is like the screen goes black for a solid 10 seconds, and I'm like, is it going to load or what? So grab my phone, go on Reddit or something, then it loads the location, the image of the location. It still spins. Usually the spinning will stop, and I'm like, oh, did it freeze? It hasn't ever froze, but it just, oh, wow. Like, hopefully they have some sort of patch ready. They told us this is early code. I'm sure that they're working behind the scenes, but I have to review it for what they gave me, and right now that is a major problem.
Yeah, same thing. They had something like that going on with Just Cause, the latest Just Cause game. And as good as and as fun as that game was, it's like that takes you just right out of it.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, if it was just in certain circumstances, but when it's just something as simple as dying, in a boss battle, and you're just any little mistake where I died, I was just like, oh my god, here we go.
It seems to be a common problem with all these new gen games, or a lot of them have just long load times.
Yeah, which I thought was a thing of the past. I really thought load times were dealt with at this point. We're on hard drives. We're loading off the hard drive. We've got 8 gigs of RAM in each of these consoles.
We're loading off of hard drives. Like, they need to be SSDing it.
I guess hard drives are faster than disks, though. So I mean, it shouldn't be getting this bad. This is like Elder Scrolls level bad, where it's loading, straight from the disk and stuff. But anyway, I mean, I could go on and on about the loading times because they are a major problem, but hopefully those are fixed because at its heart there is a lot of good stuff in this game.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask you. What, like, outside of that, are you enjoying the game?
It's a very old school feeling sort of platformer adventure game, 3D, platforming adventure. There's a lot of this classic stuff, and I say classic because I feel like, maybe some people would feel it's a little derivative or a little played out, but there's a joy in here that I haven't gotten in a lot of recent games where the platforming feels good. Camera wonks out every once in a while, but overall the platforming is pretty fun. The combat is simplistic but still engaging. You have these eventually you unlock them as you play the game, but eventually you have 4 different colors that you have to use your gun. So red enemies you hit with red fire, blue with blue, all of that sort of stuff. On top of that, there's some effects where, like, if you hit them with a charge shot with the red, it may set them on fire. That doesn't really play into it all that much. It's more just match the color in terms of your combat. But when you're attacked from multiple angles by multiple enemies of different color, you have to kind of do a lot of prioritization. And I don't know, that plays out kind of fun. The combat isn't. I could see a lot of people getting bored with it, and I think once you get really far into the game, it does. But it's a shorter game. They've said it's from start to finish maybe 8 to 12 hours, discounting a lot of the side stuff because there's a ton of these just optional side dungeons that you can just go into and try and get loot and all that sort of stuff. But the main game is on the shorter side, and I think that was for the best because it does start to wear out its welcome. I told you when you asked how it was going, I said the longer I play, the less I'm enjoying. This game went from a very solid experience, very high score, to consistently dropping through my time. Not only because of the load times, but a few other things that I'm sure that we'll discuss.
Is there like story pacing problems or?
I don't know if there's pacing problems, but there are story problems. I mean, the main villain is just sort of like there. He just kind of shows up, and obviously you get more into it later, but it really is sort of he just shows up, and now there's a kind of rivalry, and you want to kill him or something. It just the story is sort of thrown together. There's a lot of mystery to it. Just to give a brief synopsis, like you wake up on Far Eden, you're a settler who is sent ahead of the rest of Earth's survivors because there's kind of a plague going on at Earth, and so everyone's trying to leave. And something's gone wrong with the terraforming. Everyone was supposed to be asleep while these robots terraform the planet. You wake up and, the planet's still a horrible desert with storms all over the place. And the robots that were supposed to be helping are all crazy and trying to kill you. Except for your buddy, Mac, and then you find some other friendly robots later on that are actually really cool to mess with. You can use them for various things. They can help in combat, that sort of stuff. It's more of their abilities that really set them apart, where like one can grab onto rails, very much like Metroid Prime, and stuff like that. Where I mean, maybe it is that old style game that I'm attracted to, where it's this 3D platformer kind of thing. Here's some more loading times, by the way.
Great. It looks good. The game looks pretty.
Yeah. It's definitely not top of the line. There's a lot of moments where you kind of catch it and you're like, that's not great. The animation's pretty good. It teeters on really good graphics. And there's also a lot of this where you have to do a lot of exploration, and you actually like are in real areas of the game. There are bonuses up there that were specifically put there for you to get. But when you look around, it kind of looks all smudgy, and you're kind of like, was I supposed to be here, or did I get out of the map somehow? You know what I'm talking about? Like, where it kind of looks a little off.
Yeah, I maybe. I'm not sure exactly because I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about, but it's possible.
Maybe muddy textures would be the best way to say it.
Some
Sometimes,
stuff that just feels like not as polished as other
yeah,
areas.
yeah,
Okay.
the rocks look a little off. They're like, well, I don't know. Was it? But overall, yes, it does look good. Especially, so, like I said, it's a $40 sort of budget title, and I think it looks great for that. I think that was a good move that, set expectations properly.
These load times, man,
Whew, yeah.
they are definitely like I could see playing this game and going, "Yep, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, go grab a Coke, go do this, go do that, come back," and then you're like, kind of get taken out. I could see getting taken out of any fun you were having.
Yeah.
The momentum of that carrying over after those load times is probably none. And then when you're in a situation where you're dying, I don't know if you are or not, ever get into like situations where you're constantly dying. Is this a hard game?
So it's actually the sort of game where it goes from super easy to super hard, randomly. And I don't even want to say that. It's almost like you get cheap shotted a lot, where a group of enemies will spawn. You can kind of take them out. You've fought these guys before, but one guy hits you with that one weapon that kind of freezes you in place and does 50% of your health, and then another guy hits you, and another guy hits you, and you're dead, just without even being able to do anything. That's, I think, the worst that it does.
Yeah, I mean, you're painting a picture of this game being not very fun.
I hate that. I mean, it's not a bad game. It was an enjoyable experience. I'm glad that I played it. I'm glad that I got it. There's a lot of stuff in here that is good. It just...
A lot of people are excited about this game.
Yes, and I think, the trailers had a lot to do with that. The pedigree of the game had a lot to do with that. And, we did a preview, and I praised it heavily. And I still think that a lot of that stuff applies. It just... The longer you sit with it, the less it works. I don't know. There's...
Not a lot of replay value, you don't think, in this one? Or
not replay, but there are, like I said, there's those optional dungeons that you can go into, and there's different challenges in there. I don't know if you saw when I was in one earlier, but it'll give you, if you go through the dungeon just straight through and you complete it, you get one of those cores. If you find a hidden object, you get an extra core. And then if you do these other things like find switches and complete it in a certain amount of time, that seemed to be, I think that's what all of them were. I haven't found one that were different objectives. But if you do those objectives, you get special things called blueprints. And you can use those to power up and alter the appearance of your various robot friends.
okay,
So there's a lot of loot mechanics to it.
is that stuff fun?
I'm not a huge fan of loot mechanics in general.
No, you're not.
I don't get into that. I think that was a big problem I had with Destiny. I don't know. I don't get into it. But even with me not being a huge fan of it,
It's such a popular thing for almost all games now.
It is. I know. And as soon as they started mentioning loot, I saw like loot on one of the loading screens. I was like, here we go. But it's at least, it's very on the side. I think building up your robots is a nice thing to do, but it is not necessary for you to get through the game. You're just kind of doing cosmetic changes, and it tells you right there like what it does. If you change his legs to some other set of legs, he'll do more damage in combat. But you don't really use them in combat to win. You're the one doing 90% of the fighting. They're just kind of a little bonus.
Holy shit, these loading screens.
That's why I left them.
I hear you. I mean, it's worth it. This video is going to be half loading screen. You mentioned some progression altering like roadblocks when we were talking about this game before. Was that only in the spots that you were telling me towards the end of the game, or?
So roadblocks, those were the big roadblocks. They're just to kind of sum it up. If if you're only doing the main quest, you're going to hit a wall and you will have to go do side stuff.
Quests.
You're gonna hit a couple walls actually, which I hated because I wanted to get through the main quest. I just wanted to go from start to finish, enjoy the story, and then I was gonna go back and do all that side stuff when I had extra time. And it just was like, it was fine for a long time. It wasn't. I feel like other games, if they're going to put roadblocks in, they do small ones. They do like little speed bumps every once in a while, and you're kind of used to it where you need to get to a point and go somewhere else and do something, sort of like Metroid Prime, and then you can come back. This was completely fine for a long stretch of time, and then it was just, nope, you can't go. Stop, go do a bunch of other stuff.
And come back.
Yeah,
that sucks.
And it was really rough to do that. But even less than that, like, and this is less a complaint about ReCore and maybe, wow, that one's still going, isn't it?
It's like a minute and a half.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly. And the spinny thing likes to stop, and I would always think that it had locked up, but I don't know.
I saw other reports of this out there, so it's not your Xbox or anything like that. I saw other people complaining about the same thing.
Yeah.
Out there in
the
internet. Yes.
Yeah. But like the mission structure, I think, and it's again not just ReCore, but where like you're given an objective, get over there behind that door, and you get to the door, and then they're just like, okay, to get through this door, you need to go do 3 or 4 different things. That's just kind of, it's overused a little bit, I think, in this and other games where you're right there. You know where you need to go. You know what you need to do. And they just give you a laundry list of stuff that you got to go do instead and then come back. There's a lot of that in here. And it got a little old where it was just like, I've got my objective marker and I did a bunch of stuff to get up here. And now you're telling me just go do some other stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's being a little nitpicky. It could also just be that it was done so often that it became noticeable. Maybe a couple of times would be okay, but
it could also be just that you're not enjoying the stuff that they're asking you to do. I mean, different people have different opinions on whether stuff is fun, especially when it comes to like throwing people a bunch of different quests to do. I could see it not being fun. But, I haven't played this game, so it's hard to tell for me personally.
Yeah. There were a lot of... I'm very conflicted because it feels like the combat is enjoyable, but not something I would seek out. It's not...
It doesn't look very fun. I mean, it looks like you're doing the same shit over and over.
Pretty much, yeah. They add something to it where if you just saw, like, I pulled that guy's core out.
Yeah, I saw that a couple times.
Yeah, there's some stuff to that where, like, there's a bar, there's the essentially the HP bar above the enemy, and there's a white line on that. And once their health gets below that white line, which that white line can move, it'll be really high up if you sneak up on them, for example. And once it gets below that, you can rip their core out, and then that gives you more currency, I guess. There's like 15 different items that you get to level up your robots and stuff. You level up as well, but that's all automatic. You don't put stats into anything. It's all, you can level up your robots, which maybe if the robots played a larger part, that would become much more of a thing. But like, I just went in there every once in a while and was just like, all right, so I've got a bunch of red. Let me just upgrade their attack. And I would go to all my robots and just max out their attack, which I have some of that at the end of the video.
So what type of player is going to like ReCore, do you think? Because there are ultimately going to be people who, like this game, disagree with perhaps what is going on there.
Yeah.
That disagree with you maybe, and they like doing that stuff. What type of person or player, what games is this comparable to, would you say?
I think it does pull a lot from the games that it was promised to pull from, Metroid Prime and Mega Man.
Okay. I don't see much Mega Man in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels kind of like a 3D. There's, a lot of
3D
shooting,
Mega Man?
a lot
Doesn't
of.
seem like
I
Mega
didn't play
Man.
Mega Man Legends, so I don't know what 3D Mega Man ended up like. But um, I don't know. I mean, it does feel like a very old school gaming experience, and I feel like I should have. I was the audience for this. I really was. Um, and I hate that I'm not more excited about it.
No, what is this? Is this like a boss?
No, this is just a very big enemy, and that was a instant extraction that I have where I don't actually know how to get those. They just kind of pop up every once in a while. There's a lot of stuff in here. If you notice, like the screen has a lot of info on it. There's just a lot of stuff that comes up, and not a lot of it is all that important or stuff that you can really keep track of. Like the items that you get for when you kill an enemy, they drop stuff, but I can't keep track of all of them. There's like a ton of different stuff that you can collect, and then you just kind of go into the workshop and see if you have the item that you need. You can't really seek out, as far as I can tell, any item that you don't have. You just kind of stumble across it.
Is it kind of like is there any sort of progression? Is it like Metroidvania in how it blocks you off, or like how you have to have different abilities or different robot friends? I'm just trying to get a picture of like what it could possibly be interesting about this game.
So no, but
Okay.
almost. It was. There are those restrictions. You need your robots. You need
Like,
specific robots.
Doing what you're doing here
Yes.
seems like something that you need a robot to help you with.
Yes, you need that robot that just warped in and grabbed the wall. You need that guy. But you get him via the main quest right before those things. And yeah, you can go back and go into some of the earlier dungeons, and there will be those rails. And you can go up and get some of the loot that's up there. It's not like Metroid was more of a free form where you would hit that wall and you'd know, okay, I got to go get that sort of item. This is more like you're playing the game and you get that guy and you go, oh, so that's what that wall was back in Dungeon 2 that I went into.
Well, these reloads aren't taking that long.
Yeah, these ones, I can't tell what it is exactly because I think it's that I'm not dying. I think it maybe just takes some of my health whenever I fall.
Okay.
It's very weird. I've had it where it loaded immediately in a room where I died, and then I died again, and it took forever to load. I don't know what it is. It definitely seems wrong. I'm hoping that they have some sort of update ready to go. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that even if you love this game, that's hard to justify waiting that long on load times.
Yeah. And if you saw when I was opening that door, that showed the requirements, which are usually those cores and your level, which the level requirement is really baffling because that's just not a big thing. And I guess it's just telling you go and kill because enemies respawn. It's just kind of telling you go and kill some enemies. So it was really weird when I did hit some level requirements, even for optional dungeons. That feels a little odd. But maybe the level, I mean, I guess that it changes how much damage you do. I didn't really notice it throughout the time. Like if I went back to one of the earlier areas, those enemies weren't easier to kill. So I'm not sure exactly what my level impacts all that much. It was weird. Yeah, again, I hate that I'm really this down on it. I was very...
Yeah, you were excited about this game.
I was very excited. Now, I even starting the game, like that first hour or two was really enjoyable. Getting into this world, the mystery of it, where you're just like trying to figure out what happened and all this sort of stuff. And then it just kept going, and I was just like, "Oh, that was bad. Oh, that was a bad choice." And it was, yeah, frustrating.
Well, this video will be up when our review's up, right?
Yeah, Monday morning.
So, have you decided what you're giving this game?
I've got to write it out. I sat down to write, and it's, I don't know. I maybe a 3.5, but that almost feels too high at this point.
Well, it looks like,
I gotta
dear
really.
viewers, you'll need to visit attackofthefanboy.com to find out what Kyle's final impressions of.
That's a 3.5 out of 5 if you aren't familiar with her. I'm not giving it a 3.5 out of 10.
It's
That's too low.
3.5 out of 100.
But it may be a 3. I've got to write it and read it and figure out what I thought exactly.
All right. Well,
I'm still not sure.
people can find that review on attackofthefanboy.com. You will probably not find any more ReCore footage on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/fanboyattack. For Kyle, I'm William. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
And if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe down below. Thanks.